Welcome to AskPrep, your go-to channel for in-depth insights on Indian history, culture, and exam preparation. Today, we are embarking on a deep dive into the Bhakti and Sufi movements, to spiritual revolutions that transformed medieval India. These movements did more than just influence religious practices, they also reshaped society, culture, and art across the subcontinent. By the end of this video, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of their origins, key figures, teachings, and lasting impact. Whether you are preparing for an exam or simply exploring history, this video has something for everyone. So, let's begin our journey. The Bhakti movement originated in South India around the 7th century AD, with the emergence of two prominent groups, the Alvars, who were devotees of Vishnu, and the Nayanars, who worshipped Shiva. These early Bhakti saints expressed their devotion through hymns and poems in the local Tamil language, making their teachings accessible to the common people. One of the key factors behind the rise of the Bhakti movement was the growing dissatisfaction with the rigid and hierarchical caste system. The movement offered a more personal and direct path to the divine, bypassing the need for ritualistic practices and the intervention of priests. This direct relationship with God was open to all, regardless of caste or gender, making Bhakti a revolutionary force in medieval Indian society. The Bhakti movement was also influenced by earlier traditions, including the Upanishads, which emphasized a personal relationship with the divine, and the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which highlighted devotion as a path to salvation. As the Bhakti movement spread across India, it took on different forms and interpretations depending on the region. Let's explore some of the key figures who shaped the Bhakti movement and their contributions. One of the earliest and most influential Bhakti philosophers was Ramanuja, who lived in the 11th century. Ramanuja was a proponent of Vishishtadvaita, or qualified non-dualism, which offered a middle path between the strict monism of Advaita and the dualism of Dvaita. According to Ramanuja, the individual soul is distinct from the Supreme Soul but is eternally connected to it. He emphasized the worship of Vishnu and promoted the idea that devotion, bhakti, was the most important means to attain liberation. Ramanuja's teachings played a crucial role in popularizing the worship of Vishnu in South India and laid the foundation for later bhakti movements in other parts of the country. In the 12th century, Basva, a minister in the court of the Qadiri king Bijla, founded the Lingayat sect in Karnataka. Basva rejected the rigid caste system and ritualistic practices of the time, advocating for a more egalitarian form of worship centered on the worship of Shiva, represented by the Linga. Basva's teachings were compiled into a collection of poems known as Vachanas, which were written in the local Kannada language. These Vachanas emphasized devotion to Shiva, the importance of a moral and ethical life, and the rejection of social hierarchies. The Lingayat movement had a significant social impact, challenging the established norms of Brahmanical Hinduism and promoting a more inclusive and accessible form of spirituality. One of the most renowned Bhakti poets was Kabir, who lived in the 15th century. Kabir was born into a low-caste family of weavers and spent much of his life in Varanasi. He is known for his sharp and insightful couplets, or dohas, which critic both Hindu and Muslim orthodoxy and promoted the idea of a formless, universal God. Kabir's poetry transcends religious boundaries and speaks directly to the human experience. He emphasized the futility of ritualistic practices and advocated for a simple, direct relationship with the divine through love and devotion. Kabir's teachings continue to inspire people across India and beyond, and his poetry remains popular to this day. Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, was born in 1469 in the Punjab region. Guru Nanak's teachings were deeply influenced by the Bhakti movement, particularly the idea of a personal and direct relationship with God. He rejected the caste system, ritualism, and the divisions between religions, emphasizing instead the oneness of God and the equality of all people. Guru Nanak's hymns and teachings were later compiled into the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy scripture of Sikhism. His message of love, equality, and social justice resonated with people across the region and laid the foundation for a new religious tradition that would grow into Sikhism. Mirabai, a 16th century Rajput princess, is perhaps one of the most famous female Bhakti saints. Born into a royal family, Mirabai defied societal norms by dedicating her life to the worship of Lord Krishna. Her devotional poems, known as bhajans, express her deep love and longing for Krishna and have become an integral part of the Bhakti tradition. Mirabai's life and poetry exemplify the Bhakti ideal of complete surrender to the divine, and she remains a beloved figure in Indian spirituality. Despite facing opposition from her family and society, Mirabai's devotion to Krishna never wavered, and her bhajans continue to inspire devotees today. Tulsidas, the 16th century poet, is best known for his epic retelling of the Ramayana, called the Ramcharitmanas. Unlike the original Sanskrit Ramayana, Tulsidas wrote the Ramcharitmanas in Avdi, a vernacular language of North India, making the story of Lord Rama accessible to the masses. Tulsidas' work had a profound impact on the devotional landscape of North India, popularizing the worship of Lord Rama and contributing to the spread of Bhakti ideals. His Ramcharitmanas is still widely recited and revered, particularly in North India. The Bhakti movement, with its emphasis on personal devotion and the use of vernacular languages, had a lasting impact on Indian society and culture. It challenged the dominance of the Brahmanical priesthood, promoted social equality, and made spiritual teachings accessible to a broader audience. The movement also contributed to the development of regional languages and literature, as many Bhakti saints composed their works in the languages of the common people. While the Bhakti movement was reshaping Hindu spirituality, the Sufi movement was transforming the landscape of Islam in India. Sufism, or Islamic mysticism, originated in the Middle East and Central Asia and began spreading to India in the 12th century. Sufi saints, known as Pirs, brought with them a message of love, tolerance, and unity, which resonated with people across the subcontinent. Sufism in India developed into a rich and diverse tradition, characterized by its emphasis on a direct, personal experience of God, the use of music and poetry in spiritual practice, and a focus on inner purity. The movement was organized into various orders, or silsilas, each with its own unique practices and teachings. The Chishti order is perhaps the most well-known and influential Sufi order in India. It was founded by Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, who arrived in India from Persia in the late 12th century. Settling in Ajmer, Rajasthan, Khwaja Moinuddin became known for his humility, compassion, and dedication to helping the poor and needy. The Chishti order emphasized love and devotion to God, tolerance of other religions, and a deep connection with the local community. One of the unique features of the Chishti tradition is the practice of sama, or spiritual music, which is used to facilitate a direct experience of the divine. Over the centuries, the Chishti order spread across India, establishing dargahs, or shrines, that became important centers of spiritual learning and social interaction. The Dargah of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti in Ajmer remains one of the most important pilgrimage sites for Muslims and non-Muslims alike. While the Chishti order was focused on spiritual and social outreach, the Suhrawardi order, introduced to India by Bahauddin Zakaria, was more engaged with the political and administrative life of the time. Based in Multan, the Suhrawardi saints often served as advisors to rulers and played a significant role in the spread of Islam in the northwestern regions of India. The Qadiri order, brought to India by Sayyid Ghaus Ali Shah, is known for its puritanical approach and strict adherence to Sharia, Islamic law. The Qadiri saints emphasized the importance of following the Sunnah, traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, and were active in spreading Islamic teachings in the Punjab and Deccan regions. The Naqshbandi order, known for its practice of silent meditation, Zikr-e-Kafi, was introduced to India by Khwaja Baqi Billah in the late 16th century. The Naqshbandis were unique among the Sufi orders for their strict adherence to Sharia and their close ties to the Mughal court. One of the most prominent Naqshbandi saints was Sheikh Ahmad Sarhindi, who is credited with reviving Orthodox Islam in India and countering the influence of liberal Sufi practices. The Naqshbandi order played a significant role in the religious and political life of the Mughal Empire, influencing rulers like Akbar and Aurangzeb. Their emphasis on orthodoxy and silent meditation set them apart from other Sufi orders, which were more inclined towards ecstatic practices like Samadhi. The Sufi movement had a profound impact on Indian society and culture. It facilitated the spread of Islam in India, especially among non-Muslim communities, through its message of love and inclusivity. The Sufi saints, with their emphasis on inner purity and devotion, attracted followers from all walks of life and contributed to the development of a syncretic culture in India, where elements of Hindu and Muslim traditions merged. Though the Bhakti and Sufi movements emerged from different religious traditions, they share several similarities in their approach to spirituality. Both movements emphasized a personal relationship with the divine, rejecting ritualism and promoting social equality. Both movements encouraged the use of vernacular languages, making spiritual teachings accessible to the masses. This democratization of religion was a significant departure from the elitist and exclusionary practices of the time. However, they differed in their religious contexts and practices. While the Bhakti movement was primarily a Hindu movement that focused on devotion to specific deities, the Sufi movement was rooted in Islamic mysticism, focusing on a direct communion with God. Despite these differences, both movements played a crucial role in fostering a composite culture in India, where ideas from different religious traditions coexisted and influenced each other. In conclusion, the Bhakti and Sufi movements were not just spiritual movements, they were also social reform movements that challenged the status quo and promoted a message of love, equality, and unity. Their legacy continues to shape India's cultural and religious identity, reminding us of the power of spirituality to transcend boundaries and bring people together. These movements also laid the foundation for many cultural and artistic traditions that are still celebrated today, from devotional music and poetry to festivals and rituals that emphasize the unity of all humanity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Bhakti and Sufi movements. We hope this exploration has deepened your understanding of these profound spiritual traditions. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, AskPrep, for more insightful content on Indian history and culture. Let us know in the comments what topics you'd like us to cover next. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep seeking the truth.